Hey guys, this is Austin. A couple months ago, I did a video talking about why I switched to the iPhone XR. A big part of that is because so many people are hating on this phone, I thought surely it can't be that bad. So when my personal XS broke, I figured why not give the XR a shot. After 3 months of using this as my daily, I have a lot of thoughts. Since I did my last video, there have been a lot of headlines that the iPhone XR is a failure. Take one look at the Apple website and they are seriously pushing the XR. Not only does it get front page space, but on top of that, they're really pushing a promotion that is all about getting it for a little bit cheaper with a phone trade-in, something that Apple very rarely advertises. This is all for good reason. The price of the XR was recently slashed by 20% in China, and there have been carriers here in the US such as T-Mobile who have regularly been doing a buy one get one free or even a free phone when you sign up for a new line. That is not something that you traditionally see with iPhones, and it's all indicative of the fact that this is just not selling as well as they had hoped. Apple even had to revise their earnings report for the first time in nearly 20 years, almost entirely on the back of iPhone demand being weaker than they expected. Now, it's not exactly as clear-cut as that. Tim Cook has gone on record as saying that the iPhone XR is the best-selling iPhone right now, but that doesn't really mean a lot when you're comparing it to things like the XS and the XS Max, both of which are significantly more expensive phones. If you were to stack the iPhone XR side by side with, say, I don't know, like an iPhone 6s or 7, my assumption is that this is not selling quite as well, and that's a big problem. Here's the thing though, the iPhone XR is my favorite iPhone you can buy today, and that's not even counting the price. So let's just run through what you can get with the XR. First of all, one of the most important components is that Apple A12 processor. This is something that's easy to overlook, but it is a big deal. Having a fast SoC that's also efficient makes a big difference in pretty much all aspects of a phone's performance. It also has the same front and rear facing cameras. Now you are losing the telephoto option from the XS and the XS Max, but if I'm going to be completely real with you, I really don't miss it. Now if you have really good lighting, it is a nice thing to have, and the portrait mode can work out pretty well sometimes, but about 95% of the time I'm using the wide angle camera, and here the iPhone XR is completely identical to the much more expensive options, aka XS and the XS Max. The issue with telephoto is that you have a smaller sensor with an inferior lens. It generally just doesn't look quite as good as when you shoot on the main shooter, and while yes, portrait mode on the iPhone XR is not as good as something like the Pixel, it's decent enough that I really don't have any major complaints. That is the next step up, is to go to that Pixel. Beyond that, the XS and the XS Max don't make a big difference to me. And compared to the XS, you've got those same great speakers, you have the same wireless charging, and you also have a ton of what I think are pretty cool colors. The biggest difference really is the display. Whereas the XS and the XS Max have OLED, something that's very common across the industry right now, the XR has to make do with a lowly IPS panel. But you know what? It is really not bad. Now yes, it should be higher resolution, it's not even quite 1080p, but the important thing is that to my eye, unless you're really pixel peeping, it does not look bad. Now when you take all of this and combine it with the fact that the iPhone XR is a full $250 less than the XS, it starts to seem almost reasonably priced. The XS wasn't $1,000. However, my favorite feature by far is the battery life. Compared to the XS Max, and especially the XS, it is a night and day difference switching to the XR. It just lasts so much longer. When I dailied the iPhone XS, I was really lucky to make it through a full day without hitting the charger. And yet with the XR, most nights I don't even bother to charge it. A few minutes here and there at my desk or in the car is all I need to make it through a day. And the next day. This is especially important when I'm traveling. So I recently spent a week in Vegas for CES, and not once did I need to plug in the iPhone XR throughout the day. In fact, my best day was I pulled the phone off the charger at 2 o'clock in the morning, and 16 hours later, with 6 hours of screen on and 2 hours of screen off, I still had like 16% left. This thing is an endurance champ. In a world where Android phones are getting bigger and bigger batteries, the iPhone XR is the only iPhone that you can buy today that has good enough battery life as far as I'm concerned. Now the 8 Plus last year is probably the closest to something like that, but realistically, a lot of phones can get you through a day of medium use or light use, but the XR is the first time that I've been able to make it through a full day of proper use. I think it's something that people are seriously overlooking when they take a look at the XR. It is by far my favorite feature of the phone. I really feel like the iPhone XR doesn't deserve the bad rap that it's gotten. As far as I'm concerned, this is the only iPhone in 2019 so far that I recommend buying. It's got the right blend of performance, camera, and importantly, it's got that battery life.